everyone, Pop Daddy here, and welcome to the second part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 40th Anniversary retrospective. In this episode, I will be ranking my favorite turtle projects, so I thank you for watching. And I just wanted to go over something real fast was that I mentioned in the last episode. The one thing about the Turtles was that there wasn't really a dead time, if that makes sense. As I mentioned with Ghostbusters, their dead time was, say, from fall of 1991, if I'm being generous, to a brief reemergence in 1997 when Extreme Ghostbusters came out, to another period from then to 2009 when the video game came out. But it got warm, but it was never really on fire as it was in the 80s. Another one would be Star Wars. I'll be generous on that one too and say the original trilogy fever died down around 1985 and then started to reemerge in 1995 when the action figures came out. If I were generous, I would say 1991 when the books came out, but it didn't really catch on as big as it did in 95. It started to churn a little bit more. 1997 is when the special editions were released. Then 1999 is when the Phantom Menace came out. 2002, Attack of the Clones. 2005, Revenge of the Sith. Then 2008, you had the Clone Wars movie and the Clone Wars series. Then that lasted till 2013. Then 2014, Rebels started up. In 2015, the sequels began. There's been series ever since. So there hasn't really been a dead time for Star Wars. So maybe I'll do a retrospective on that soon. Probably not, but it's fun to think about. The closest thing the Turtles had to a dead time was from 1997 to 2003, when the Next Mutation ended, which really didn't catch on. The TMNT 2003 series started up. That was a hit. That's what latched back on. But in the late 90s, when Hot Topic started and all that, you had the t-shirts, you had wallets, you had tumblers, you had mugs. The merchandise there was for what people who grew up with the Turtles, it was for them. So although that merchandise didn't really catch on for kids, it caught on for adults. Although kids lost track, adults never really did, if that makes sense. And I was a huge fan, like with Ghostbusters. In fact, Ninja Turtles was the thing that got me off Ghostbusters. That was the fandom that me and my brother jumped to. I mean, we loved both at the same time. We loved both Ghostbusters and Turtles. Those combo figures from like 6-7 years ago, those would have blown my 6-year-old mind. I know I said it in the last episode that one of the best birthday presents I ever received was the real Ghostbusters Firehouse. Well, one of the best Christmas presents I ever received was the Technodrome. Now, unfortunately, I never had the sewer playset. I got the Technodrome instead, and that seemed pretty fun to me. But, we had the bed sheets, we had sleeping bags, we had all kinds of Turtles merch, and we were also Turtles for Halloween. My brother was Leonardo, and I was Raphael. We were all in on Ninja Turtles. That brings us to now. I'm just going to be doing a quick review of a few Turtle items. Keep in mind, these are my opinions, so feel free to agree or disagree. First, I'll be ranking the Turtles themselves. Now, here's the thing. I'm just reviewing the main four. Not doing any Venus, no Slash, no Metalhead, just the 4 Turtles. Number 4. This one is, sometimes he's at the bottom, sometimes he's in the middle. For me, he was never the top, and that is Leonardo. Leonardo is the generic turtle. He's usually one that people think about when they think of Ninja Turtles. When they think of Ninja Turtle, they think of turtle with swords, which is usually Leonardo. His plot lines seem like he could have been switched out with another turtle at any time. He's a good leader. That's pretty much it. And his plot lines could have been, you need to be a better fighter. That could have been a Donatello plot line. You need to be better out in the field. That could have been a Raphael plot line. You need to learn control. That could have been a Michelangelo plot line. And although Leo is the most boring, he still is essential. And a lot of good stories come from him. And he's number 4 because someone has to be. And that would be Leonardo. Number 3, if there's been a turtle that has remained consistent throughout every single interpretation of the Turtles in any type of media, visual media like TV or movies, it's been Michelangelo. I was never big into the whole surfer dude culture. And that was big in the late 80s, the whole "oh dude" culture. And that's Mikey to a T. That's where he found his footing. That's why people loved him. He's the party dude. He's the one that everyone loves. And while he's a great turtle, I never really fully grasped him. And I think throughout my life, Mikey's always been the number 3 turtle for me. And that may stink for some of the Mikey fans, but I've learned to accept it because a lot of people like Mikey, but he's just not for me. So for number 2, if I had made this list, say about 16 years ago, maybe 17 years ago, this turtle would have been number 1. Now, when I got my Nintendo in 1989, I got a copy of the video game. And I, at that point, didn't have a favorite Ninja Turtle. And this turtle I played as, and the one thing that made him my favorite Ninja Turtle was that he could use his weapon through walls. Number 2 is Donatello. Donatello is a good character. He's the brains of the operation. He makes things, he makes the gadgets and stuff like that. He's always the smart one. And he's another one where, like his personality has not changed since their very first TV show. Number 1, by process of elimination, it's Raphael. And a funny story is that Raphael used to be my least favorite Ninja Turtle. And reason being is that, same reason Dying was my favorite. In the video game, he had the weakest weapon. So I would always play him first. So when he got captured in the Hudson River by the seaweed, I could just play as the other turtles, and it would be okay. Which was weird also, because I love Rob Paulson's voice, but the fact that I did not like him in the video game, set him on that for me. The thing with him in the TV shows and such, he can carry himself well as a character. He's well written. Usually the best episodes have to do with him and Leonardo together, or just him. The movies got this right as well, because usually the other turtles stick together, and he's usually the one that wanders off. Whether it's he gets kidnapped, whether the other turtles get kidnapped and someone needs to stay behind to rescue them, Raphael is always the one they go with. He's the most complex turtle. He's the best written turtle. I think that in all the turtle live action and animated turtle stuff, he is the one that the writers know that they can do anything with, and do try to do anything with. And I've come to appreciate that in these later years. Okay, animated series. I'm skipping this one because I have not seen all of them, and I'm currently working my way through 2003. And if I had to rank it right now, I might go 87 number 2, 2003 number 1, because 2003 is well written. The only thing I don't care for about it is that the turtles don't have pupils and they just look weird. But in one of the flashback episodes, they do have pupils, so it totally throws everything off. But yeah, so you know what? Scrap it, throw this out, end it. We'll get to the next one. Video games. This will be quick. There have been a lot of Ninja Turtles video games over the years. I'm just ranking my top 5. Cowabunga! Number 5 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Hyperstone Heist for the Sega Genesis. This one sort of is kind of like the home version of Turtles in Time, where a few of the levels seem the same. And the thing is, though, while it's bright and colorful, it's also a lot shorter than most other Turtle games, but I love the mechanics of it, and it is fun to play, especially with others. And you can change the turtle colors, which was something interesting at the time. But I mean, it's still a good game. Now keep in mind, out of all the games, these are the top 5, so there's not really a reason for me to have there, except for there were ones that I found better. Cowabunga! Number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Manhattan Project for the Nintendo. This one took the mechanics of the arcade game that was released for Nintendo, and it just built upon that. You have new moves, there's better animation, and the foot soldiers come in a different variety of ways to annoy and attack you, and that's something that is always a fun time. And if you can find a copy of this, definitely get it, because it's always fun. And there's also dual playing, so that's always a plus. Cowabunga! Number 3 goes to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time, the arcade version, which oddly enough is part 2, based off of the arcade game's part 1. But for the home consoles, it was part 4 as a follow up to 1, 2, and 3 for the Nintendo, which is, it's weird, it's complicated. I'm not getting into it, but this one is a good time. It's like the arcade game, but I found it to be a bit more difficult, and although fun, the difficulty didn't made it sour on me, if that makes sense. So Turtles in Time is number 3. Cowabunga! Number 2, you know it, you loved it, you've most likely dumped a summer's worth of quarters into it. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game for the arcade, not the arcade game for the NES. I consider those two different games, even though they're the same story. I remember my brother coming home all excited about seeing this in person. And he was like, yo, you're never going to believe this. There's a Turtles arcade game. And, the side has the Turtles and Shredder and April's there. And April looks weird because she's live action. It's so totally weird. And my mind was blown. Because keep in mind, this was before the movie came out. So this was our first time seeing April in live action. So I was like, whoa, I got to see this. And I remember a week or two later, we were at the roller skating rink, and I saw the arcade game in all its glory. Seeing the 4 plush-looking Turtles there in live action, Shredder in the street, April like this on the side of the building, it stuck with me, and I will always remember that game, and I loved it. And, although I never had the home version, probably because my parents heard me complaining about the first game, I would always rent that alongside DuckTales whenever I would rent video games. Cowabunga! And number 1, if you took all these past 4 games and put them in a blender and it came out today, but it came out better, it would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I love, love, love this video game. Now, this video game, you can, like I said, you can play as the Turtles, and you can play as the other characters. And there's different ways to play, too. You have to find out which character plays to which skills. Like, you see, April is weak, but she hits fast, so it might take 5 hits to take a foot soldier down, but where it would take Michelangelo 2, but April doesn't in half the time. Whereas Splinter, he hits like a truck, but he's slow. So that's one thing you have to find out which character works best for you. Also, there are skins. There are skins based off the animated series, skins based off the movies, skins based off the Game Boy game and NES games, and my personal favorite, skins based off the action figures. And Casey Jones has giant greenish blue weapons, and Leonardo has his swords are tan. And I love that, and with the challenges and stuff like that, this game has great replayability. There was a while where, during my downtime, I would just play this game. And if you haven't played it, I would highly suggest it. I believe it's on Xbox Game Pass right now, so that'd be free to play, so definitely check it out. And that leaves us to movies. So there are 7 theatrical released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films that I will be ranking. And keep in mind, this is for theatrical releases only. So sorry, Turtles Forever and Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This ain't your ball game. Let's get started. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Number 7, you might have some controversy here, but others might seem to say, yeah, I can see that. Number 7 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. This movie, I did not care for this when it came out. I did not see it in the theater. And I was looking back, and for some reason my mind always thought it came out in 94, 95. At that point, I was past Ninja Turtles. I was above the age where I found them interesting. I had outgrown them. Then I'm looking at it was released in 1993, and I can remember me and my brother had 2 of the figures from it, and we were excited to have the figures. And I remember us getting the movie and putting it on, and I just lost interest almost right away. Maybe it was the setting, maybe they weren't taking on Krang or other super mutants, but I did not care for this movie at all as a kid, and the Turtles were out of their element. The costumes weren't that good looking. The only saving grace was Casey Jones, I will say that. But this movie was like a piece of roller skate pizza that had been sitting out all day. It was bland and boring. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Number 6 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014. This one I saw for the first time. I assumed it would be the bottom of my list, but I didn't hate this movie. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, there was negative feedback. First, Michael Bay was producing, then Megan Fox was attached, then there were going to be aliens, then the first looks came out, then the CGI was overused, and it was a rough ride to get there, and it's an okay Turtles movie. My major gripes are April being the Turtles' mom, and Mikey being a bit creepy to her. I think that if the Turtles looked closer to the animated series Turtles, or even the Turtles in the first movie, that would knock this up to number 5. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Speaking of the first movie, this might be a controversial opinion, but number 5 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. I loved this movie as a kid. I loved it even more than the first one. I don't know what that says about me. We didn't own this one, but whenever it was on TV, we would watch it. But looking back now, you can definitely tell it's lighter in tone, and seeing the Turtles in the light all the time isn't really that good for the Turtles. April was replaced. Casey Jones was replaced by the Teen Dream-esque Kino, who also knows ninjutsu. And I actually also thought that Professor Perry was Baxter Stockman in the previews. But Shredder's back. He becomes Super Shredder after the ooze touches his spikes. Tuca and Razar are pretty fun. There's the Vanilla Ice scene, which I hated as a kid. Still don't care for it now. Also, Tuca and Razar were supposed to be Bebop and Rocksteady. And if that had happened, it might have been better. But I'm going to be honest. If the Jim Henson Creature Shop had not been involved in this movie probably would have been number 6. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Number 4. Number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. This one was a really fun time. And this added something that the first one was missing, which was fun. You had the Turtles, you had Casey Jones, Vern was back, April was back, Baxter Stockman, we see him in the flesh for the first time, played by Tyler Perry, who does a great job. And although this was lighter in tone, it still had some dark elements which made it good. And also for the first time in the movies, we see Bebop and Rocksteady, and they are great. Seamus plays Rocksteady, and he is fun. This was a fun time. If you've been on the fence about this, if you haven't seen it yet, if you're a Turtles fan, do yourself a favor and check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Number 3, if I had made this movie about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this would have easily been number 1. After doing some rewatches and thinking about it more, it is now number 3. And that would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2007. I loved this movie when it first came out. Like I said, I had seen it twice. The story was good. It was darker. And the Turtles seemed to be more like brothers. And I really enjoyed this movie. And a fun story, I remember coming home from work and my buddy picking me up and us seeing this at the theater together. And then later that night, my girlfriend at the time wanted to see a movie. And so we saw it again. She picked this because she just come from a bachelorette party. And so I saw it twice in one day. And another fun fact, the movie Shooter came out around the same time. I was an extra in that. And I want to say it came out maybe the same weekend. I did not see Shooter, but I saw TMNT twice on opening day. But if you have kids that are getting older and you want to transition them to an older style of Turtles, I would definitely say this would be the perfect first step along with the 2003 series. Because it's got everything. It's got monsters. Shredder's not there, but the movie holds well without him. Plus, April, Casey, and Splinter all join in on the fun. So definitely give it a watch if you haven't yet. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Number 2. Sometimes the hardest decision with lists like this is choosing number 2 because you know it and you love it, but you know there's something better than it. And when it comes down to it, number 2 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. They say nostalgia is a strong drug, but I was able to break free of it and really think about it for this one. I remember the lead up to this movie being insane. It was the first movie that I can really remember looking forward to. I remember seeing the teaser poster with them looking out of the sewer. I can remember the commercials, the previews, not knowing how they fully looked, not knowing how they sounded, seeing the teaser pictures of April wearing yellow. I was all in on this movie, and I can remember it being the movie highlight of me as a little kid. Seeing it was amazing. Hearing Shredder's voice and seeing him, seeing Splinter's backstory, being afraid of Casey Jones the first time we see him, then realizing how awesome he is. Like with Ghostbusters 2, we taped this off TV and we played it a lot. We might have worn this tape out also, but we loved it. For me, this was the pinnacle of the movie-going experience as a kid. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! And for number one, this may come as a surprise for you, but that would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. This movie was amazing. This was awesome. This was funny. I laughed out loud quite a few times. The turtles get along great. They get along great with April. There are mutants. There are a lot of mutants. It's funny, but it's dark also. Superfly can be scary, but it is a fun time. And you're laughing and getting scared at the same time. It's awesome. It's like a little horror movie for kids. Bebop and Rocksteady are there, and they're always good. Jackie Chan plays Splinter, and he's great. This felt like classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Although there was no Shredder there, I was okay with that. There was none of him in the 2007 movie either, and it still got along okay without him. The Turtles acted like and looked like teenagers. They looked young. Speaking of which, my only gripe with the movie was that Donatello sounded like an 8-year-old. Aside from that, this movie is turtle perfection. If you are a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan who has not seen this yet, definitely check it out. The animation might be a turnoff, but it is definitely well worth it. And that's it for now. Those were my rankings. Did you like what I said? Did you not like what I said? Tell me below. Tell me what your rankings of any of those things are below. Animated series, figures, turtles, video games, movies, whatever you think. Thank you for watching. I will be back in my next episode. I'll be going over Turtle Snacks. That's not really the main event. The review is, but I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.